My name is Javier Morales, a library page for the City of Santa Ana Public Library. Today is Wednesday, August 7, and it's approximately 12:30, and I'm conducting an oral history for the Santa Ana Oral History Project. Can you please state your name?
Tony Everett.
Tony Everett. When is your date of birth, Tony Everett?
August 23rd.
Where were you born?
I was born in Germany.
Germany? What part of Germany?
Rinteln, Germany. My dad was in the forces, and so I was on a he was on a military base, and I was born at the military base.
Do you have any siblings?
I do.
You do? What are their names?
I have 3 brothers and a sister. Martin, George, Brian, and Allison.
What are your parents' names?
Teresa and Ernest.
Everett?
Yes.
Can you speak about your father and what he did for a living?
He was in the military for most of his life, and when he came out of the army, he became, he did several jobs. He was a driver, he was actually a greenkeeper at a golf course, worked on a golf course for several years. So did a number of different types of jobs.
How was his military experience?
For him it was great. He became sergeant major, so he worked his way through the non-commissioned ranks. I think he was, I think he loved the army. He was very disciplined, and that was a big part of his life.
Was he part of the Germany army, or?
No, so he was part of the English army. So he was an Englishman, born in London, and served in the English army.
And that part where you were born, was that England territory, or was it Germany territory?
Yeah, it was actually an England territory. It was an England base in Germany, which made it an English territory.
Could you speak about your mother and how?
Yes, she was a stay-home mother. She did some part-time work. She raised basically the family, a family of 5. She was always there. She was a great role model for me. And she's English. She was actually born in Wales, and followed my dad around in his little army exploits and raised 5 kids.
Where did you grow up specifically?
So I grew up in the southwest of England, which was the early part of my years, and then we moved as a family up to a place just outside London, so about 30 miles outside London, and I spent my childhood there from about 6 through 14, and then moved a few miles away from that when I was 14, and lived there for as long as I can remember.
How was growing up for you? How were your experiences with friends in your neighborhoods, or?
Well, we lived in England. We lived in a very much a rural part of England, so we were out in a small village. It was very close knit, lots of good friends. My dad was never really involved in my life. He kind of more or less was that absent father. He worked a lot, and that was his lot in life, it seemed. So I didn't really have a good role model as a male role model growing up. I left home when I was 16 and a half and joined the Royal Navy and spent the next 5 years in the Royal Navy. So I had a lot of good friends. It was what I would call a normal childhood. Played a lot. Wasn't really that engaged in school. Didn't do that well in school. Could have probably been a lot more involved and engaged if I'd have had that kind of father figure, that role model to kind of push me and drive me a little bit more.
What were your hobbies when you were growing up then?
Played soccer a lot, mainly park soccer. Used to go down the park with my mates and would play cricket, which is the English equivalent to baseball, and I played golf.
Were you any good
at golf?
Any of those?
Any of those? I was all right. I didn't really apply myself. I didn't really put myself out there and practice hard. It was more just a hobby. It was for fun. I used to laugh, while I was playing it, and that's really where I spent a lot of my time.
So for you, it was more of a fun engagement then?
Yeah, it was always that fun engagement. Friends were very important to me growing up.
You mentioned schoolwork. What were your names? What were the names of the schools you attended, and what do you remember about them?
So I attended the Takeley, Takeley, Takeley Elementary School. It's not called an elementary school in England, but it's the equivalent to an elementary school. I remember it being very small, and I remember not really enjoying my time there. I know that much. And then my senior school was Helena Romanas High School. And again, I goofed off a lot. I messed around a lot. I really enjoyed just the goofing off at school. I didn't necessarily enjoy school. I enjoyed my friends and mates and all of that good stuff.
Would you say friends have played a vital role in your life?
Definitely. Friends have been more of my driving force in kind of working through some of the issues in life.
You said at the age of 16 and a half you decided to go to the Royal Navy. How did that turn out for you?
It was great. I spent 5.5 years in the Royal Navy, and I loved every minute of it, really. I got to explore the world. I got to go to many countries around the Mediterranean, around the Baltic. I got to go to the West Indies and America. And so as a 16 through 21-year-old, I had a blast. It was a place where I learned, again, more about friendships and the importance of friends. And I still have some friends from my Navy days. And I kind of learned how to live a life that was more kind of street living than anything. It was that, how do you live life? How do you cope? How do you get on? How do you just kind of make it, rather than kind of the school or college type experience of over here. I learned to party hard as well when I was in the Navy.
What were your immediate things after that?
So I left the Navy and became a salesperson in the photocopier world, and I got married fairly soon after leaving the Navy. It was kind of the natural thing to do. School, Navy, what should I do now? Get married and start a family. In hindsight, wasn't the best choice because that marriage didn't last, but I wouldn't have changed it because I had my son through that marriage, and so I've got a 22-year-old son who lives back in England. But then I was a salesman for the next 20 years of my life.
What's your son's name?
Ashley.
Ashley. And do you see him at all?
Yeah, I've been back to see him a couple of times. He's come over here twice and seen me. He's planning on coming out again next year. So we talk a lot on the phone. We Facebook and Skype a lot. So we talk a lot.
Would you say things like the internet have helped you keep your bond with your kid?
Yeah, definitely. That internet connection, the fact that I can pick up my cell phone and just use it to call via Skype and speak to him any time of day or night, that's phenomenal. So yeah, definitely.
How did you arrive here in the United States?
On a plane.
What were your why would?
Sorry. I was working for a security firm back in England, and we were owned by an American company. And one day I was actually on the phone with a guy from the American organisation talking about a project that we wanted to look at in London on the boats of the River Thames. And it started a conversation about how we could potentially partner where he could sell through me and yet still get recognised for commission and all of that good stuff. What happened from there was, at the end of a conversation, I just happened to say, so hey, what would I have to do to work for you guys in America? And he replied, hey, you've got to talk to me, I'm the sales manager and I've got an opening in Orange County. To which I replied, great, where's Orange County? Because I had no idea where it was and what was going on. So we talked and I sent my resume over. We interviewed via telephone, and then they were interested, so they flew me out here for a face-to-face interview. And I loved California. They turned out to like me, so they hired me and brought me over here. And that's what helped me get my green card and visa and all of that good stuff to travel out here.
Are you still working for that company?
No. There was a couple of things that was going on with the company, a couple of changes that made within the management, and my life then was kind of in the darkest area that it's probably been. I was moving over to America was a tough job because, you know, to start off with it was fun and a new experience, and you know, a lot of stuff was going on. But then the reality kind of came in here that I was out here on my own. The girl that I moved over here with, we split up, so then I was really on my own. I didn't have any family, I didn't really have any close friends, and the friendship bond wasn't there for me, and that's really important to me. So I was missing home a lot. And so I got involved with the wrong crowd, got involved with drugs and alcohol, and was partying probably 6 days a week. And so it was really a dark time of my life, and I actually quit my job to go home. And that was on a Friday. I remember phoning my boss to quit my job. I actually went on a road trip to San Francisco just to party up for the weekend. And I came back and I pressed the play button on my answer phone as I walked into my house. And it was my attorney saying that my green card appointment date had come through. So I immediately phoned my boss and said, I've thought about it, can I actually retract that resignation? To which he was, you know, okay with. And so I went through the green card process, and as soon as I got that, I then quit.
So you took advantage of that.
I did, yeah. It was something that I'd been waiting on for a long time, and you know, needed to get my green card, so that would give me more options. Because when you're over here on a visa, you either work for the company that brought you over here, or you go home. They're the two options to you. The green card actually opened the doors for me to do a whole lot more.
You were saying how friendship played a vital key in your life. Do you think you took drinking and partying as an outlet to that, knowing that you didn't have any friends here?
Definitely, yeah. It was a way to escape. It was a way for me to find social friendships. They weren't the deep friendships that I remember having back in England, but it was just an escapism for me that I could just escape kind of a depression that I was in and just get out there and, you know, party, forget all my troubles, seem to have the friends around with me. But then I would always end back at home on my own without my real kind of core friends and people around me.
After quitting your job, what did you do?
So I didn't just quit. What actually happened was I got the green card, I stayed there for a while. Things didn't improve within the management of the company. And so I just started looking for alternatives. And so I then got myself a sales job within selling kind of large equipment to clean floors and clean warehouses. So it was an equipment sales job. Did that for a year, and that wasn't good for me. And I then got into selling asbestos and lead abatement. So it was an environmental cleanup company. And I worked there and I sold that for 5.5 years. And that went through a management change as well, ownership change. And things started to change there, and I got out of that. And I started working for a water restoration company. And so that would be drying and cleanups from floods and all of that kind of good stuff. And it was right about that time that the Pure Game concept came up.
And you just you say Pure Game. What is Pure Game?
Okay, yeah. So Pure Game is a form of play, of soccer play that actually engages at-risk youth. We use the game to bring them in to something that they can love and enjoy and be a part of. And then we use that game to teach them character, to teach them positive traits about respect and responsibility, and about the choices they can make, and how they can make better choices in their life, how they can actually be successful and be the person who they are capable of being. Just by the use of positive words and encouragement, we get these kids to kind of turn their lives around and see that they have potential and something to offer this world.
You touched on it. So your point on friendship kind of adapted to this Pure Game. So what you guys do is basically join together and make friends, right?
Yeah, we use so it all started. If I backtrack a little bit into that kind of darkness in my life, one of the things that I found back then was coaching. I used to coach AYSO soccer, which is the American Youth Soccer Organization, and club soccer. That then put me into a social arena that had soccer at the centre of it, but it was very competitive, and it was all about the wins and losses. And seeing that and remembering how I used to play soccer as a child, the passion that I had, I just want to go and play with my mates and create friendships. The American soccer system is very much about the wins, losses, and how do I get my child into college. It's very organised and very formatted. And so kids don't necessarily get to enjoy it as much. They don't get to see the passion that can be within, a simple game of soccer. So what I wanted to do was change that for the kids that played, and I wanted to bring some enjoyment back to the game to get these kids to understand they can enjoy playing it. And so I created Pure Game as a small-sided, fun system that would just encourage the kids for the abilities they had, not correct them, not teach them, not coach them, just to go out there and have some fun with the game. And then it moved on from there and really got into working with kids in poorer areas, and that came about from a trip that I took to Nigeria. I went to Nigeria and was playing with kids out there on the street and in any green space that we could find, and I couldn't speak their language, and yet as soon as I started playing soccer with them, everyone understood me, everyone knew what I was about, and everyone kind of gathered around and wanted to play. And so I saw the game there have this ability to connect people, to create friendships, to create bonds, and to create something that could transform individuals into the people who they were made to be.
Could you speak more about your experience in Nigeria? When was this trip?
That's a great question. So I first went to Nigeria in 2004. I went actually with Saddleback Church as part of the first wave to go to Nigeria. Was let's find out about this area, let's find out about this place, because we were in the middle of nowhere in Nigeria. And so we took a 2-week trip to find out what the region was like, what their struggles were, and soccer was a big portion of it, more out of, hey, let's go and have some fun with these kids. It's a great way to engage the community through a game that they love and they're passionate about. And so we played soccer with them out there, and we found out some of their issues and what was going on. And then we went back the following year in 2005. At their request, we did more soccer programs, and we actually helped them out with some church training programs. And then we went back in 2007, and we did some training on health and preventative care as far as cleaning, simple cleaning the neighbourhoods of the trash and cleaning the water up, which would stop mosquitoes, which would then curb the issue of malaria. And so that was the Nigeria deal. But at every trip, soccer was at the centre of it. I'd play soccer every time I'd go out there.
Playing with those kids, how did you feel just seeing smiles on their faces, because, maybe they've never seen people outside of Nigeria just come out and help?
It was amazing, actually, because a lot of these kids had not seen a white person before, because we were that far out in the sticks. So we were there as the first white people they'd seen. Some of the older people had seen white folk before, but hadn't seen anyone for years. And so for us to turn up and just be a part of their community through this simple game was amazing, and kids would just love it. We would turn up with a soccer ball and play. Each village has their own little soccer team, and so they would play into village games, and they wouldn't play on soccer fields. They'd play on what they would call a soccer field, where one end might be, 30 yards wide, and the other end might be 60 yards wide, and the boundaries was a cornfield on one side and a school on the other side. And so they made goals out of trees and sticks and all of anything that they could find, and these guys would go out there and play against each other for hours, and they would just continue to play. And so then suddenly I would turn up and join in on one of the teams, and we would play, and we'd have these whole younger group of younger kids come out and watch us, and it would be like playing in a stadium. There'd be hundreds of kids around this field playing, but they would all be smiling and they'd all be part of the program, and it was awesome to see. It was a great thing to be a part of.
Yeah, it sounds like a great experience.
Yeah. And that's really where kind of the idea of Pure Game was more or less birthed, because it was this concept that soccer any sport, but personally for me, soccer, because of my passion for it, soccer can be used as a tool for social change. It can be used to unite villages. It can be used to unite people groups. It can be used in such a way that people forget, what's going on in their lives and actually be a part of something.
You were talking about how you were the one that created Pure Game. Mm-hmm. So would it be safe to say that you are the founder of Pure Game?
Yes, I am the founder of Pure Game.
When did you establish Pure Game?
So we started as an actual registered non-profit in January of 2009. The organisation has probably been going since 2006, 7ish. That's when I started to play with the idea of a small-sided game, using it for social change, using it to encourage people, using it in such a way that's different to the game of soccer we currently watch on TV. We don't have any competitive programs involved in it in the way that you would see teams playing against teams. We take it to a small-sided field and have two fields sitting next to each other and play a series of 5-minute games, and then we shuffle the teams around every 5 minutes. So you as an individual take your score with you to every game that we're playing on. And so the concept is how do you put forward your best foot? How do you as an individual be the best person you can be on that given day in that given game? And so it's very different to normal soccer for sure.
Where are some of the programs that you have here?
Well, so we have programs running within schools here in Santa Ana, Garden Grove, Stanton, Anaheim and Tustin are our in-school programs. And then we also run after-school programs where we partner with the likes of Boys and Girls Club and KidWorks and the like, and we run them in Santa Ana, Anaheim, Costa Mesa, Orange and Garden Grove.
How many kids do you usually see a day at these locations?
It depends on the day. I mean, right now, so as we see it today, we're serving 600 kids this summer. That's 600 kids every week throughout the summer. Same 600 kids throughout the week through the summer. When it started, like I said, 2007. I was just playing at it. It was a part-time gig. 2009, we probably served, 30 to 60 kids. Last year, we served about 5,000 kids throughout the entire year. And this year, we're on target to serve somewhere between about 5,000 and 8,000 kids.
And are these locations just normally at schools, or are they actually at other after-school programs?
So our in-school programs we actually run at their school site. We come in and run either a recess or a lunch break session. And the school will nominate the children and they come out and play. We could have anywhere up to 64 children playing from one school. So we'll typically do 2 or 3 schools a day. And then when we're done with our in-school programs, we then go to after-school programs. And then the after-school programs are typically based in the same geographic area. And so that could be the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Ana, for instance.
Are you the only one that takes part in helping these kids, or do you have assistants out there?
We do have assistants. We started off with a volunteer base, and they were some of the local guys from Santa Ana, some of the local teams. We've been working with them on this leadership development program where they can volunteer and start being the positive mentors to the younger kids. From that program, we've actually hired 2 of the local guys to come and work for me, so they are now full-time staff running the in-school and after-school programs.
And what are their names?
Their names are Octavio, Valente, and Danny Torres. And then we have a bunch of volunteers as well that come out and help us out. They're 2 younger brothers, Pete Torres and Marcos Torres. Both of those 2 help out. We've got Alex Ascension, who helped out last year. We've got some other volunteers from the Orange County area. You yourself has helped out a couple of times.
Going back to Pure Game, what is Pure Game's mission? I know you touched on it a little bit when you were talking about it, but do you guys have like a special mission statement that you guys have?
Yes, we do. Let me start off with our why first, because I think that's important. And this comes back to much of why I'm doing this personally. I told you earlier that my childhood was me and my friends. My dad was kind of there but absent. You know, he never really was engaged or involved. And so he never really encouraged me or inspired me to do anything, you know, anything better than I was doing. He was disengaged from that. And so I learned how to grow up kind of flying underneath the radar and never feeling I was good enough. And I look at those people around me today who are successful, and I look at myself today who's now successful. And it took someone speaking something into my life to do that. It took a champion, my champion, to say, you can do this. And so I believe that every child needs a champion. And so we provide that champion on the soccer field. And so our mission is simple, that we use the game of soccer. It's an inclusive game of soccer, open to all, athletes, non-athletes, boys, girls. And we provide the positive mentor, and that someone is there to champion the development of the children so that they can see and believe in themselves, and they can see that they could live to a brighter future tomorrow.
You touched on you having a champion as you grew up, going back to your childhood. Who was your champion?
Well, that was it. So as a child, I didn't have the champion. So I learned how to get along on my own, but never really achieved anything. And it wasn't until probably 9 years ago, when I really had that first champion come into my life. And someone who could say, hey, you've got an ability here, you've got a talent, you should apply yourself in this arena. And so suddenly I was kind of taken aback by that this person saw something positive in me, because I didn't see it in myself. And that's typically the way. These children that I work with, they have something inside them. They have an ability and they have a gift. They're good at something, but they don't see it themselves. And so they just believe all the negative stuff that surrounds them and live out the negative lies that they hear, that they're not good enough, they haven't got what it takes. And so they perform like that. And it's not until someone comes up to them and says, hey, I can see an ability in you and you should use that. I believe in you. Someone who will be the champion for that child. You don't see the change until that champion comes along. And it happened in my life 8 years ago. A gentleman on the soccer field said, hey, do you know, you're an amazing coach. You have got an amazing ability to communicate to these kids. You should use that gift. No one had ever told me that in my life. And so I don't want to see the kids today that I work with wait until they're 40, 39, 38, 40, whatever it is, to understand their talent and their gift. I want them to realize it at the age of 10, 11 and 12, so they can start making the choices that reflect their uniqueness and then live the life they're meant to live.
How did that one gentleman's words help you change your aspect on the way you were looking at things?
So the guy, his name's Mark, and it was on the soccer field. I was coaching, and I was doing it again more out of fun. But I remember one day he just came up to me and said, you know, these kids really respect you. You have an ability to communicate to them and bring out the best in them. That's a gift that you have, and that's a talent that you have. You should use that. And at the time, I just sat there and was like, that's a load of rubbish. But it took a little while for the words to sink in, for me to understand what he was talking about. And in hearing those, how did it change me? It actually got me to apply myself to the world of coaching. I actually saw that the words I had and the words I used had a positive influence on these kids. So I decided to develop that, and so I applied myself more. Started to believe in myself.
And just hearing that, it changed the way you saw things, especially not having a...
It changed the way I saw myself. It got me to see that I had something to offer this world. I didn't just have to be Tony Everett, the salesperson. You know, I didn't have to be, you know, that person who had to rely on drugs or other people to build my self-esteem. I could kind of rely on myself now because I found a gift that I could lean on and go, this is what I do.
Well, you mentioned Pure Game helps at-risk children and youth. Mm-hmm. Can you explain why this is so important, especially here in Santa Ana?
Yeah. Well, this is one of the reasons why I came to Santa Ana in the first place. First of all, the population here have a natural passion for the game of soccer. It's in their blood. It's kind of like in an Englishman's blood, right? Soccer lives and runs through our veins. And so, in a way, the soccer portion made it easy pickings for me. I knew I could turn up with a soccer ball, much like Nigeria, and just come out here and play with the kids and they would join in. But I saw a big need here in Santa Ana because the kids here and in the surrounding areas, get treated in a very negative way. There's negative influences that surround these kids every single day. And so they start living out those negative influences, which then creates the rest of the world to treat them in that negative way. And so it's this big cycle. I'm getting treated negative, so I'll act negative. So I'm going to treat you negative. And someone needs to come in and change that cycle. And through the game of soccer that these kids love so much, you can change that. And you can say, no, you don't have to believe these negative lies that surround us. You can do something positive with your life, and then so change the way you're treated. And then that would change a community, which would then transform, a whole culture here in Santa Ana.
And how has that progressed? How have you seen change in Santa Ana due to your program and other programs that are trying to assist
Sure.
at-risk kids?
So one of the things that we've been doing is, so we run with younger kids. We work with younger kids, and we're just surrounding them with the positive influences that they need to be surrounded by. And then as we get into the older age groups, we actually put them through a leadership development program. And it's basically showing them that they have gifts, they have abilities, and how do they use that gift and ability to serve the community and serve those around them. And so we put together a youth advisory board, and that youth advisory board is there to serve the community. Not because we're telling them, but because they want to, and they want to bring their talents to the community. And so we just put that out there, we put that seed out there to say, hey, what would you want to do? And the youth advisory board down in Townsend Street decided that they wanted to show their community that they have a pride in their community. And so they did a community cleanup. They met just one Saturday morning a couple of weeks ago, and got all of the gears together, the brooms and spades, shovels, all of that good stuff, and cleaned up all of the trash down their back alley and down through the ditch. It started off with, I think, a group of about 6 guys that were there. I think after 2 hours of working there, it grew to about 12 or maybe 16 people who were involved in that cleanup. And it just goes to show that it only takes a couple to start something for the community to see the transformation and the change, and so they now want to be a part of that. And so now I think we're developing this pride in the community that will then start to transcend, and they'll start naturally wanting to do this. And so instead of now throwing trash in the street, they're going to go and find the trash can to throw it in, or they'll see trash and pick it up and throw it in the trash can. So that's kind of some of the transformation that we've seen.
What are other projects that you as Pure Game and your youth advisory board have that have been involved in?
That's a good question. What other projects have we been involved in? Have we been involved in other projects?
Juvenile Hall.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Let's track back.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So what other programs are we running? We're actually running a juvenile hall program. And so this is something that came through the Orange County Department of Education, and we run here in the Santa Ana Juvenile Hall, the school, Rio Contiga, a program there that does exactly the same way. We go in with a soccer program, we're engaging these kids who hear nothing but negative stuff around them. Typically, this is their story, somewhere between the ages of 6 and 12, something's gone on in their life. Either their brothers are gang members, their parents are gang members, parents are split up. Someone's not there to be their champion, right? And so a gang member will kind of put their arm around them and say, hey, you can hang out with me, I'll make you feel good. And because they want that bond and they want that feeling of belonging, they just join it and they're just a part of that. And so suddenly they're in this gang, and now they're doing the drugs and doing all of that sort of stuff. Before they know it, they end up in juvenile hall. So we go into the juvenile hall program and reach into these kids' lives and say, you don't have to continue this negative cycle. You can be responsible for your own life, and you can make better choices. You just need to start thinking of the consequences of the choices you've made. And so again, by putting them through a leadership program and just showing them that someone cares, just showing up and saying, I believe in you, I'm here to help you, is enough to break down the defenses. And the fact that we're running around a soccer field laughing and having fun, that makes it all the better.
Any specific people who or children who are in juvenile hall that you are trying to help out, and what are they there for?
Yeah, sure. There's one kid, I actually mentioned him earlier, Alex Ascension. He volunteered for us last summer. When I first met Alex, he's hanging around Townsend, and there are a lot of gang members down in and around that area. There's the Townsend Street Gang, and unfortunately, Alex was one of these kids who hasn't got a father figure, who hasn't got the best positive influence in his life, and so has made some poor choices. And many of his friends just happen to be gang members. They've already made that choice and joined the gang. He's not, but he does hang out with them. And so when I first met him, he would hang out with them quite a lot, and you could see the path that he was going, that was potentially his future. But we grabbed hold of him and brought him into the soccer program, and he loves soccer, and he's really good at it as well. And so we got working with him on the soccer field just as a player. Then he started to volunteer. He started to work with the younger kids. He started to be the mentor that he's capable of being. About 3 months ago, he made just a bad choice. Walked through the park. Gang members were there that he knew, so he went and hung out with them. One of them just happened to have a gun. Of course, the police turned up. The guy holding the gun just ran away. Alex is 14. He ran away as well. And so just by, being there, that wrong place at the wrong time, he got picked up and is now in court, in juvenile hall, being associated with gang membership and having a firearm and all of that good stuff. So today, in fact, I was in court as a character witness for Alex. I went and stood up there and just told the court that he's not the gang member that they think he is. He's a great kid. He just happened to be caught up with the wrong people at the wrong time, choosing wrong friends, and just in association with gang members, you can be pulled into that gang. And so that's what happened to Alex. And so it was actually Danny Torres and Octavio Valente and myself went to court today as his character witness.
How did it turn out?
Well, his case was he got found guilty within being with a gang member who had a firearm. So that's part of the guilt by association factor. And so we got his case reduced, or his time served reduced, and he'll be serving 150 days because of being associated with a gang member.
Do you receive any negative publicity or any negative comments towards you for helping kids in juvenile hall?
Just trying to think then. I don't think I have. No. I mean, ultimately, people understand that kids who are surrounded by negative influences are going to find it hard to make positive choices. But no one's doing anything to change it. They just accept that that's the way. And so they do, I think in the main, people feel for these kids who find themselves in juvenile hall or find themselves making poor decisions. So I don't think that anyone's against or opposed to us trying to do something for them and trying to get them to see they have potential and they don't have to live this lifestyle.
And this is, of course, Pure Game's mission, to show these kids that they do have something better to do in their lifetime.
Yeah, we want to see, our vision is to see these kids engaged in their community, to see them realise and understand their potential, and to see them make the choices that reflect their uniqueness, so they can become successful contributors to community and society in general.
You talk about youth being part of your helpers, your assistants with different programs. What other opportunities do they have? Do youth or young adults have in Pure Game?
So we're always looking for volunteers on the soccer field to play with these kids. Like I said, not in a way that's competitive, but it's in a way that would use this power of positive words and encouragement to build the confidence and self-esteem of these children. So we're looking for volunteers within the community, youth, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, to come out and start playing with some of the 6, 7 and 8-year-olds so they can be the positive role model that these kids so desperately need. Not as a big brother, but more as a father figure to say, hey, you have the ability. So to really be a field champion, to be a champion for these kids' lives.
Why should youth get involved? What do you find the purpose of us older youth getting involved?
Well, it's good in both ways. First of all, it's good for the older youth because serving will increase your self-esteem and your confidence. Having a sense of community, having a sense of that you belong to something bigger than you, will make you realize that going after your dreams and searching for that is worth it. Right? So it engages the youth in a whole deeper level. But it also helps the younger children in ways that you wouldn't believe, because these kids need a positive role model. And if we've got the youth from their community reaching out to them, saying, hey, you can do this too. I know how difficult it is for you because I've walked in your shoes. I was 10 living in this neighborhood, so I know the choices you have in front of you. Here's a way out. Here's a way that you can make better choices, and here's a way that you can break the cycle. And I think it has more power when an older youth in the community reaches out to the younger children in that same community. And there's also other volunteer opportunities. We're looking for people to help us with social media. We're looking for people to help us with, back office administration. There's tons of stuff to do when you look at the operation of an organization, of a non-profit like Pure Game.
Where do you see Pure Game in 5, 10, 15 years?
It's a good question. So I see Pure Game in 5 years being fully established in Santa Ana, that we would be running all of the schools through the school districts in Santa Ana, that we would be running all of the after-school programs, that we would have our own recreation league program, kind of searching for and finding potential soccer players who could play at a level. I see us having an indoor arena here in Santa Ana, and I also see us serving some of the surrounding cities in 5 years' time. So Anaheim, Garden Grove, Stanton, Costa Mesa. There's no reason why we can't be in any of those cities. 10 years' time, I think we would see ourselves as bigger than that. There's no reason why this couldn't be in LA, San Diego, Texas, out in New York. We're looking to develop the African model. We're already in Rwanda and Nigeria and places like that, so we can develop that program. So in 10 years' time, it would be an international organization.
So your goal is to see Pure Game not only on a local state, but a national-wide state?
Yeah. My ultimate goal in all of this is to see 1 million children playing Pure Game around the world. It would be a world stage thing where this is truly an organization that unites communities, unites races, and unites people in such a way that we're teaching people just how to get along, how to make good choices, and how to live better lives. And there's no reason why that couldn't be around the world.
That's a great vision you have for Pure Game. Any closing remarks you have to say?
Just one thought as I've been talking about this is we all have a gift, we all have a talent. Children I work with have this ability that they don't yet understand or know. And it only takes one person to walk up to a youth, to a child and say, hey, I see this in you. I see an artist in you. I see a soccer player in you. I see a politician in you. Whatever that is, I see an ability in you and I believe in you. That one person who could step out could make such a difference in a child's life. That one person could unlock the brilliant mind that exists in all of the children that surrounds us today. Good?